Yes, my name is Van. Unlike previous excellent speaker, I have lived here for exactly 4 months. My partner Naomi and I moved here from a New York suburb. We are great fans of it and look forward to living here for a long time.
Welcome!
And my background is I am a writer. I was a journalist for a long time, and then I got laid off finally one last time, and I became a writer in professional services, so I worked for accounting firms for a long time. And I also do open mic presentations, so I'm a little familiar with how to do this. I know not to hold the microphone and wave it around holding a document. Anyway, so I'm going to get started. This piece is called Changing My Religion at the McAllen Public Library. Making a major change in your life is hard. It's even harder if you do it on your own as a teenager. So here's the story about that. Growing up in Mission, Texas, in the 1960s and 1970s, I was very confused. Born into a Jewish family, I wound up attending a Southern Baptist church from a very young age, after my parents, who were both Jewish, of course. Dad left for New York, and Mom left religious instruction for a devout Southern Baptist landlady. My mother was estranged for reasons I never understood from the nearby temple in McAllen, where my parents had been married in 1955. She did, however, keep an antique menorah in the house along with a Jewish prayer book. And she taught my younger brother and me the Shema, the foundational Jewish prayer that you say at bedtime. So I had enough clashing influences to drive me a little crazy, even as a kid. By the time I hit my teens, I was all in on evangelical beliefs. But gradually, I became deeply conflicted about whether I was a Christian or a Jew. Or could I be both? Visits to my long-absent father, who had moved to Manhattan, began to crack the hard shell of my faith. I started to see myself in a very uncertain new light. But there were no other Jews that we knew in our very conservative, mostly Hispanic town on the Rio Grande. The nearest synagogue, Temple Emmanuel, was 5 miles away in McAllen. And I had no role models for asking difficult questions. My classmates knew me as a solid Baptist who came over from the ranks of the Jews, which they were all very pleased about. Mom had a kind of a chip on her shoulder about Judaism and didn't really seem open to discussion. And what would I ask her anyway? So in desperation, I turned to the public libraries in Mission and McAllen. In them, I found books that introduced me to Judaism. As I wrote in my journal on September 7th, 1974, almost 51 years ago, Jew, Christian, me, life, the raw stuff of the diary, my life, I have temporarily concluded that to be a Jew, one must be a Jew. It's not a Jew when it suits me proposition. I am out of place at the First Baptist Church of Mission. Something doesn't fit. I have forced myself to see the facts. Like Dad said, I can't run away from what I am. This morning I spent some time in the Jewish section of the McAllen Public Library reading. Despite statements to the contrary, there are differences of gigantic proportion between my two faiths. The books I found answered the question straight up. The tonic to the earnest evangelicals who were always happy to give me their opinions of what Judaism was and had been superseded by. I read a book called This Is My God by Herman Bloch, who had been a favorite author of mine since I read his World War II epics, The King Mutiny and the Winds of War. Basic Judaism by Rabbi Milton Steinberg was a perfect introduction to get the basics. I worked up the chutzpah, so to speak, to meet the rabbi at Temple Emmanuel and attend Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur services in 1974. And I did all of this secretly and couldn't even level with the rabbi about my background. And when I informed my mother, she started crying. Van, why didn't you tell me, she asked. I didn't think you'd understand, I replied. I was 16 years old. Although I attended those services, in fact, met people who remember my parents being married there, I couldn't make a clean break and fully embrace my Jewish identity. Still, I stopped going to church and identifying as a Christian. I was on my own in uncharted waters. Instead, the libraries became my Beit Midrash, which is Hebrew for study hall. On March 3rd, 1976, I wrote, I turned in my philosophy books for 2 volumes on Judaism. One was the Jewish Catalog, a counterculture, that's the last time you heard that term, volume, like the Whole Earth Catalog, dealing with orthodoxy for fun, living on the commune, knitting kippas, making candles, not exactly my brand. I also got David DeSolopoul's Why I'm a Jew, an introduction. So the mission of McAllen Libraries played an essential role in giving me confidence to accept my Jewish identity and faith. My library cards were the key to unlock the doors to the kingdom, or shall we say, the keys to the temple. So fast forward 50 years, that's a long time. Leaving one faith to return to another takes a lot of work and thinking. There's a real back and forth emotionally. I felt shame that I didn't measure up through college at Princeton and into adulthood with what seemed to me the highly aware Jews of the Northeast. They all seemed to have Yiddish-speaking grandparents from Brooklyn. They had bar and bat mitzvahs and big boisterous family Passover meals, like in a Woody Allen movie. Me, I dyed Easter eggs, and I went to vacation Bible school. Hard to believe, but I did. So the cultural disconnect was profound. I defined the idea of the imposter syndrome. But a Cards on the Table talk in 1983 with a rabbi in Brooklyn who said I had nothing to feel bad about eased my anxieties completely, and I began to look forward rather than looking back. Across the decades of morning services, hundreds, thousands of them, the prayers became familiar enough that I could now follow along and read them in Hebrew. So along the way, I visited Israel twice, studied Hebrew and Yiddish. Mom gave me this high for Hanukkah in 1979, so she got with the program in a motherly way, and I never take it off. I made my peace with my Baptist background, which I used to hide, and I can talk about it, although I still never listen to Christmas music and I don't sing carols. I gave myself a Hebrew name, Zev Hayim Ben Moshe. My son Sam had a bar mitzvah. I'm a blogger for the Times of Israel, and in 2012 I published my memoir, A Kosher Dating Odyssey, one former Texas Baptist quest for a naughty and nice Jewish girl. The book is available on the local authors table at the McAllen Public Library, and that's my way of giving back. McAllen's library, by the way, the librarians here may have known about this, won national notice in 2012 and it moved into a 123,000 square foot former Walmart location, becoming the largest single floor library in the country. So, and I'm still a big fan of libraries. Here I am, here at the Reading Public Library. I especially enjoy going to library sales. I'm delighted by this bookstore you have here, and I like the really big annual sales. At a library, I bought a book called The Family Moss Cat by Nobel laureate Isaac Bashevis Singer. He autographed that copy for me when I attended a lecture of his at New York University. I also have an autographed copy of Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel's Man's Quest for God, which I found for $1 at a library sale in Fairfield, Connecticut. The people had sale. So, and I'm always going to library sales looking for very esoteric volumes in Hebrew, Yiddish, and Russian. And when I find one, boy, am I quick to snap it up. So I hope other people find my book at the local authors table in McAllen, maybe in Reading someday, and learn that they're not alone with their questions about identity and faith. Libraries, I know from personal experience, can be your own study hall, any topic you want, in any language you desire. Thank you.